Welcome back to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success, create a clear vision for life, and ultimately step into a life of purpose. I'm your host, Braden Belknap. I'm a transformational life coach, speaker, and entrepreneur, helping you accomplish just that. But what if you're in a position where passion, purpose, and living a life of honesty feels so far-fetched? That's exactly why we have Luigi Carneiro joining us today, the successful musician from Brazil, bringing those talents, those passions, and the life of honesty here in the US. And he's here to help you do the same, building a life of passion, a life of purpose, and leaning into honesty. That in mind, welcome to the show, Luigi.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. The blessings, honestly, mine, Luigi. You're a great individual.
Thank you.
You're
Can say the same.
And you've accomplished great things in your career.
Oh, thank you.
So it's going to be good to have you on.
Thank you.
See the wisdom that you have to share. So what initially, you're obviously big into anime, singing, playing music. You're talented across the board.
Thank you.
What initially inspired you to play music?
I grew up into a musical family, although not professionally, because my dad worked as a CFO and financial director for a few companies like GE and Becton Dickinson. But my grandmother was a flute player. Her sister was a conductor, and my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was a violin player. My dad was an opera singer, and my uncle actually became a professional opera singer, coming to sing at the San Francisco Opera in the 60s. So I was surrounded by music all my life, opera and classical music constantly, American music as well. And so it was almost like a natural direction to follow. I was almost like conducive to that. And not that my sisters followed that same path, but it's the same thing now with my kids. I have two that have very distinctive talents. One is a race car driver. The other one is studying to graduate as a vet student. And the youngest one, and she's the one that got my artistic vein. I was born almost, not as a Napo kid, but I was born into a world of music. And that's what led me to it.
That's powerful. I talk about purpose a lot, right? Purpose is really three things: what you love, what you're naturally good at, and what you can make money with, make an impact with. And, money follows impact.
Exactly.
To say the least.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I'm working with people on their purpose, they're like, what should I do, Braden? Like, I don't know what I love. I don't know what I'm naturally good at. Like, I've been doing the same thing for 10, 15 years. A big part of that is going on the journey to finding it right. But it turns out a lot of the people's purposes are what their ancestors did.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I used to sing my dad sing all the time. And he would literally sing all the time. So to the point that we would be like, oh no, Dad, shut up. Like, could not stop singing. Still, he's 85 and he's still singing. I think a lot of what happened was, my mom noticed that I wanted to sing as well. And we had one of those Sony tape recorders, and she just recorded my voice. And then next year, I said, I'm better than it was last year. I think I'm going to surprise my mom, and I'm going to record my voice again. So I got the same tape, and I recorded over the tape that I was 4 years old, and she went ballistic because she's like, I don't care if you're singing better now. You should have used a different tape and leave that tape, so I can have both. But then that to me was almost like the intriguing thing of like, I can document this. I can record this. And then I started like doing it more and more often. And Lisa normally says, and my kid says, that I'm always filming things. And I feel like I'm a documentarist. Like I like to document stages, progress, evolution, and I think it's something that I've always wanted to do. So I always understood what I wanted to do. And I always loved what I wanted to do. And it became the vehicle. And I absolutely love what I do. I do the advertisement for Rodizio Grill I know there are jingles, radio spots, TV spots, billboards, menus, everything you can think of that is visual, but I love it. Like if I need to go in a studio, start editing a video or start editing a song, I forget that time exists. I'm there. And that makes me quite content.
That's usually a sure sign of you're living in your purpose, is if you get lost in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you look down and you're like, wow, how did time go so fast?
Yeah. And it's creative work. So for me, it's always exciting, because it's like, what kind of effect can I put here? If I'm mixing a song, like, what can I make this song sound different, by changing EQs, changing reverbs, changing dynamics and everything. And that, allows me to be always excited about things. I'm working now with my daughter, the one that I mentioned, Gabi, and we're working on 2 songs that one she wrote, the other one she co-wrote with me, and we finished the final vocals 2 days ago. It's a song called Orange Juice that she wrote when she was probably 14. She came out with the melody and I recorded the melody. And then we decided to finish it. And it's sounding fantastic. I work in partnership with a friend of mine in Brazil called Marcelo Lima, and he's doing the arrangement for this song. The other song is called For the Sake of Future Generations. And it's a song that I basically produced the song and Marcelo's going to mix, and the vocals are ready. So yesterday I was doing string arrangements for the new song, for the Orange Juice. So if I don't record this line, I'm going to forget it, and so it's always a constant evolution and a constant passion that never dies. So there's never a day that is boring. I always get upset when my kids are like, I'm bored. I'm like, you don't have the right to be bored. Go do something, go create something, go disrupt something, go do something that will create a shift, that will promote conversation, that will, enhance people's lives. I think the 3 of them are in a very good path. I'm very happy with
Yeah, you have good kids.
They're very good. It's one of those things, like kids will never be 100%, and they cannot be, right? They need to change us as well. A lot of the things that I believe now, I learned from my kids, because they change my perspective. But you have to be open for that. You have to be open to listen, and I butt heads, especially with my oldest, Bruno. He chose the worst career possible to succeed, which is motor racing, which is being a race car driver. And I knew that I had to push him very hard. And I knew that, is that what you want to do? Then you have to do it 3 times more than anybody else. Why? Because we don't have the money. He didn't have money to succeed in the business. And you have to find ways to. So he created this racing school in go-karts at the age of 12, and I was helping him trying to find a go-kart. He would fundraise, selling Rodizio Grill certificates door to door. And then he created his own team now. And then he raced in Asia, was a Formula 4 champion, Formula 3 top driver, Formula Renault top driver. Now he's a coach and travels the country. He's also building race simulators. And he races. Last week he raced Porsche in the Porsche Cup car. So fulfilling his dream. But I've always had to kick his butt, because it's a difficult thing to do. And I do the same with the 3 of them. Because the 3 of them chose challenging professions. Like Juliana is doing vet school, which is very challenging. And because there's not a lot of vet schools in the country. So even with high GPAs and everything, it's hard for her to get in. But she is in her 2nd year. She's now dissecting animals. She's now slaying animals. I mean, names that I've never heard before that she does, that I'm like, Papa, today I had to do this. And she's very into animals. So for her, it's also a challenge because, you want to nurture an animal. You don't necessarily want to dissect. But she has to do all those things. And Gabriela also loving cinema and film and wanting to be a female director and singer. Those are very hard professions. So I'm constantly pushing them. My dad was quite the opposite. He hated the idea of me being a musician, so he didn't support me. I think he went to one concert that I did. And I remember looking, it was a stadium. For some, not a stadium or a gymnasium, but a big one. And I remember I could see him on the other side of the grandstands from the stage. And I could see that he was doing faces like this. Because his standards were so high, because he's an opera singer and everything. And he's quite good, you know. And I sing pop music, you know. I sing rock and roll. And I could see that he was not enjoying it at all, you know. And I was probably not very good at that stage. I was probably 14, 15. But he didn't want me to become a musician. And I went against it. So I've learned to drive myself. My mom had different ways of pushing me. She respected the fact that I wanted to be a musician. She was my number one promoter. But I remember that I showed her a song. And she's like, that's it. Like, what do you mean? You want to succeed playing those 2 chords? I'm like, no. Well, then go learn more chords. Go do something to improve. So she was my instigator. And she would instigate in a lovely way.
Kids have that instinct to read their parents' anger.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
When you say that, I'm like, I can definitely tell when my mom's like angry, and like, I love you, and this is why I'm so frustrated with you right now.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, it's always from a standpoint of love. And I think that's how we need to be. The ultimate goal is never on my benefit, it's on their benefit. I want them to succeed. I want them to be happy. And that's what matters to me. The ultimate goal is to raise good humans that will contribute to the world and not hurt anybody, not damage anybody, but instead promote love, promote support, promote, you know, other people to grow as well.
I mean, you've accomplished great success in the music industry.
I think not in the U.S. much, but yeah, in Brazil, yes.
Seems like it's coming over, though. Would you agree?
No, I don't know, because I think, I mean, I had my rock band, and when my parents immigrated to the U.S., my dad was transferred, and my dad was the president of that division in the company. They brought him back to the U.S. to develop, to, you know, bring Beckton into that fold. And then at the time, I didn't want to come because I had a rock band and with a contract and an album. So I stayed in Brazil, and my dad and my sisters and my mom and my sisters came. And then that band was reasonably successful. It was called Aldran. The founders of the band, they're fanatics with Star Wars. And we were successful. But you know, bands are like a marriage with 5 people. And if it's hard to, you know, keep up a marriage with 2 people, with 5 is even more complicated. Each one has their own background. Each one have their own, you know, influences and determination, you know. And we parted ways, and then I started to sing because I recorded in a lot of studios as well as a backup singer for other projects. I started to record a lot in commercials, and I did a lot of jingles, radio spots, TV spots for Coca-Cola, for Volkswagen in Brazil, and we won awards in Cannes, you know, for the advertising awards in Cannes in the U.S. as well. And that led me into producing music. And when I moved to the U.S., I started with a studio called the Basement Studios, and I started to produce. And then I was discovered by this friend of mine called Camcraft. And he gave me the first opportunity to start recording jingles in the U.S. And we recorded a lot of commercials for UTA, for Standard Optical, for a lot of local companies, Arctic Circle, and we did a lot of work together. And then I started working with my son in his career as a racer, and I was his marketing guy. I was his manager per se, contacting teams and finding sponsors and going after sponsors, which helped me a lot as well in many ways, because we were quite aware that a racer coming from Utah with no funding would have very little opportunities in the world scenario. And that took probably 12 years that I put music away, then decided to take care of my music again. I recorded an album that was released in 2000 that had very good reception and played reasonably okay, given that we had no money as well to promote, because everything requires money. I mean, what people don't understand is that the vast majority of successful artists have investors. Like, you can have an album playing nonstop, but you need a $1 million budget to make that happen. So it plays on all the radios, and the promoters are after it. They are promoting the song and everything. So it requires a lot, So what happened in the end is that I discovered that I had a huge following in Brazil from animes of songs that are recorded back in 1997. And they invited me to do a concert in Brazil with my old bandmate, who is a fantastic producer. And we've been having sold out concerts in Brazil. And craziest thing that ever happened to me was waiting for a friend on the subway, and this family comes to me. He's like, "Are you Luigi Carneiro, right?" I'm like, "Yeah. Can we take a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Oh, of course, of course." So it was very nice, and I took Lisa, my wife, and Gabi to one of the biggest event we have in Brazil for anime culture, which is called Anime Friends. And so then I started to play in these events, and it's amazing. And Gabi was like, "I cannot believe these people, they asking for your autograph and taking pictures and everything. And, you're my dad. You're just the guy that wakes up and blah, blah, blah." Say, "Well, I know that's the fun thing. I've always imagined how Paul McCartney please, I'm not comparing myself. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Paul McCartney, and I would be like, oh my God, I really wish, I could spend 25 seconds with Paul McCartney just to say, man, I love you since I was born, And
he's just another guy waking up,
and then
brushing his teeth.
I have people that come to me, like from other states in Brazil. They travel 12, 14 hours to go watch our concerts. And we had this girl, and she's, the stage assistant came to me, and she's like, between songs, and she's like, "Can you go talk to this fan? She's crying and crying and crying." And I'm like, "Of course, let's go talk to her." And then and the girl is like, almost like a statue next to me. Like, she doesn't move. She's shaking and crying. And Tamidis, who is this stage assistant, she's like, "Look at him. You travel all this far to talk to him. Now talk to him." And then she's like, "You can't, because I'm going to faint." I'm like, "No, you're not." And then give her a hug and everything. And we took a picture together. And I said, well, after the show, she had her husband with her. And then after the show, we met. And it's one of those things, like, it's amazing, because you touch people's lives without even knowing, without doing. And I think the secret is to probably not to intend to affect people's lives. It's just to do your stuff. And when you write something that is honest, that will resonate with people that have those same, that's why nobody's unanimous.
Absolutely.
Some things will resonate with a group of people, but completely fall flat with other people. And that's totally fine.
That's okay.
That's totally okay. And then you have to be completely okay for someone to come to you and say, "Sorry, I don't care for it."
Yeah, if you're for everybody, you're for nobody.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect definition. It's like being unanimous. It's a horrendous thing, and it means you're in a cult. You're not in an environment that promotes, different thinking. So it's very exciting. The path that I'm taking is very exciting. I dream about bringing my band to one of the Comic Cons or one of the events in the US. I dream about doing it. I don't know if they have the same support, financial support by sponsors that the events in Brazil have. Because the events in Brazil, they bring like 40 artists from Japan, 20 artists from Korea. They bring me from the US, artists from Brazil. And it's this 4 day event with multiple stages, multiple things. But I have a dream of bringing, and obviously the original composers of the songs that we adapted to Portuguese for Yu Yu Hakusho, which is the anime that we performed the most. I sang in the openings that went on TV for Yu Yu Hakusho, another one called Soul Brain, which is a tokusatsu, which is like the robots, and then I'm friends with a lot of the artists that were the original artists on those projects. So the dream is to go to Japan one day and be able to perform in Japan with our band. We'll see.
That would be phenomenal. You'll make that happen.
Well, I hope it's one of the. I say it's a dream, but it's actually each time I sing something or I'm putting a seed on that path.
You're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, to reach that.
Absolutely. No, what you've created, what your kids have created, it's something to be proud of.
Thank you.
Now, I'm assuming that this journey hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows.
Oh, yeah. It's tough. It's been tough.
Was there any moments where you're like, is this music thing really for me?
More times than actually certainty. I think the main thing that the musician needs to understand is that unless you are part of the 3%, 4% of the musicians that actually get to stardom, right? Even the ones that go on American Idol and win American Idol, it's not sustainable, right? Some are not. But the vast majority of musicians, they disappeared or they disappear. And the reason for that is not talent. The reason for that is persistence, is to be successful. And you can be successful, for example, like I said, my son, he's a driver coach. He's successful at that. He drives, he races, he set up lap times for the students to go after. So he's racing, but he's not competing as he would like to compete. So would I like to be financially comfortable by now? Yes. Did music provide that to me? Not quite, but you always keep trying. You always keep going after it. If not to promote yourself, to promote somebody else. So there were many times that I knew music was the wrong path as a career, but there was never a time that I did not want to do it. So there were many times that it was conscious. This is not going to make me survive day by day. But did I ever say, I'm going to quit? Never. Because nowadays, our channel, the band that we have, UU20, we reach 1 million streams in 2024. So it's a good number, right? Does it pay? No. Cents of a dollar. And so the main thing is to keep making music for the people that love the music you make. And that's why you have happy accidents like when they call me, hey, there's this Japanese anime and the production company wants you guys to produce the songs. And I said, okay, I'll do it as long as they don't send the lyrics translated. And the guy was like, why is that? I said, because if an advertising agency guy or a production agency guy gets a translation straight from Japanese into Portuguese, and they want me to sing that, it's not music. I need to give me the translation. I need to listen to the music, and I need to adapt those lyrics in a way that will sound natural in Portuguese or English, in a way that it's going to sound as if it was written in Portuguese or English, not Japanese, not translated from Japanese. I'm translating directly from Portuguese now, substantivo in Portuguese. But the reality is, I try to make something that will be honest to the listener, not to please the advertising agency guy or the production company guy. And that resonated. And that's why we got the followers. I'm not saying that it was me doing it, but it was because we re-recorded the arrangements. We hired local musicians. We re-recorded the arrangements. And the biggest moment for me was when they did an event in 2022 that they brought the original singer that was on Fuji Television in Japan, and she's a huge star in Japan called Matsuko Mawatari. And then she came, and we stayed in the same hotel because we were going to perform together. I told her who I was and that I was the singer for the Brazilian version and the Portuguese version, and she was like, she stood up and gave me a hug. I love what you did. It's fantastic. It sounds so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. The long story short cut is that we now write music together. We wrote a bossa nova song called From Rio to Tokyo. And I think that's why it works. And I think it works because we did it with the intent of being honest to the work and to those who are going to listen to that work. You can achieve and reach anything. I mean, I came from Brazil that it can be cold, especially where I'm from in the southeast. It can have very cold winters, but I adapted to the cold weather in Utah to the point that I go to Brazil, I sweat like a maniac. I'm like, man, that stuff in here. And then after 2 days, I'm fine. But it's interesting how you make your mind tell your body, that's the limit. If you want to, keep pushing.
Absolutely. It's the thermostat analogy.
Yeah.
Right? And your mind has a set thermostat, whatever heat that is, 72 degrees, 90 degrees. Just like a thermostat, right? If you're in a house and the room's set to 90 degrees, cold air comes in, lowers it down to 80 degrees. Naturally, your mind has that thermostat at 90 degrees where you'll
Feel that.
increase back up to 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Say, for sense of success per se, not necessarily money, but maybe followers, maybe an audience, like whatever success means to you. If your success thermostat in your mind is set at that 90 degrees, and you have that warm gust of wind come in your mind, your room per se, increasing it to 100 degrees, and that success just came in a wave. Since your mind is limited to 90 degrees, naturally that success goes away back down to 90 degrees.
Yeah. You limit yourself.
Absolutely. As we've talked, you've had trials, you've had challenges, you've had triumphs. There's been such goodness, and in turn, you've been able to support your kids to where they're at today. What are some principles that people could take away from your own story that they could incorporate into their lives to truly make their purpose a reality or find their own success in some way?
I don't know if there's no recipe for anything, of course, but I think the main goal, I believe in the law of attraction.
Sure.
And I've learned that from a great friend of mine called Ivan Utreri, who is the Rodizio Grill founder. And we've been friends for over 2 decades. And I believe that the better you project, the better you receive. And the more you set your mind to, the higher the chances you will succeed, whatever that success means. Like you said, what I always try to instill on my kids is always be honest, always do things that will benefit you as long as you are not infringing on someone else's rights or limits. Always support other people, because that creates And Bruno, when he was young, he'll get mad at me, and I will go on the grid. He will be on the grid, and I will be friends with all the drivers. And I would say, hey, good luck, good luck, good luck. And I'm really wishing them good luck. I want my son to win, but I want them to race fairly. And Bruno would be like, why? That guy pushed me off last time. I would say, great, but I still wish him luck. And by doing that, I also believe that you excite a little bit of decency. If that person is not very fair with you on track, I'm using racing as an example, the best thing you can do is to perform the best you can and show that you don't need to push anybody out of the track to win. You can do it by being consistently fast, saving tires, driving clean, because the dirtier you drive, the more you scrub your tires, the more you damage the tires, and the tires are the performance of the car, ultimately. So same thing with music. Like, I know I had a lot of people that you go on a choir, and that person has experience. So when I would start doing backup vocals, and I'm a self-taught, and then the arranger would say, okay, you're gonna do okay. The other person would do something like that. And I had a lot of people that, I would be trying to, I need to keep that note because I was 16, 17, was young. People around me were 34, 35. And I had people that would start to drive me out of my line. Because you normally record with, right, one cup in, one cup up. And I had people doing that to try to destabilize me, and especially if you're a newcomer. In the other hand, as I grew experience, I did the opposite. I've always wanted that person to perform at their best and contribute to the success of the project. And I tend to be very tactful and very kind of like touchy when I introduce to someone that is going to be working in the environment that I'm working in. And the reason for that is that I'm trying to evaluate how much that person is passionate about what they're doing, how much are they pretending to be good at what they're doing, and how much actually they want to participate and be part of the success. Once I develop a respect for that person, it's almost like a probation time. Once I develop the respect for that person, I work with that person extremely well. It's difficult for me when I can't tell that somebody's BSing me and is a poser. Then I have a little more resistance. I have more resistance, but I still make it work. So I think that the secret to everything, not just music, racing, surviving, overcoming, is basically understanding that you're not a threat. You should not be a threat to anyone. You shouldn't be threatened by anyone, and help people to be their best, to achieve their best. Every successful person I met uses that philosophy.
Sometimes it's just asking the question
Yeah.
and giving your time to think
Yeah. Yeah.
of an actual solution. Sometimes it's not a matter of just, for example, you mentioned in this podcast, you doing two strings and playing a record, and you showing it to your mom. And then your mom's like, hey, do you want to be successful? Are you going to be able to do that with just two chords?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, right, it's not just about playing music and just consistently hitting the grindstone. Sometimes it's actually taking a step back to learn an extra 3, 4, 5 chords.
Yeah.
So that you can make the better.
It's like I used to be a very impulsive person, and I'm not going to do this. And, but for pride or for whatever. But I always allowed myself to watch people who became successful in life. How do they operate? First of all, it's nonstop. It's persistence. It's absolute dedication. It's absolute confidence. I have a friend, brilliant guitar player. He once said, if you're on a stage and you make a mistake and you play a wrong note, do that with conviction. Like, express it. I meant to do that wrong note. You didn't, but at least you're like, you're not going to be like, oh. And I do that.
Sorry, guys. We'll restart the song.
No, and it's funny because you used to say that. I'm like, I agree with you. It's true. But then there are situations I'm just remembering. Like even last year, we were doing a concert in the event in the north of Brazil. And then I will make a mistake on a lyric and I would look at my keyboard player and it will be alarmed. Like, it's like, dude, every time you look at me, I think I did something wrong. I'm like, no, I did something wrong. Like, but don't look at me. Don't look at anybody. Just, I say, okay. Then I started inventing lyrics when I wouldn't remember because, but yeah, but it's like, even when you think you're wrong, you have to be wrong sometimes or many times. You have to be wrong many times.
And that makes you learn better.
Yeah.
And in turn, it makes you more wise. Sometimes that misstep's the best thing for you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, it's what give you the strength, to succeed. I see a lot of people, friends, and, I have a dear friend, and the one that is producing the songs with my daughter, Gabriella. And I mean, he's like, dude, lost 2 clients. And I'm like, what now? I have no idea. And said, how are you going to pay your rent? I don't know, but I have to find a way. And it's a constant, right? Especially in a country like Brazil that always been through a lot of hurdles, financial hurdles, variety of reasons, especially corrupt politicians. And people adapted to that. So it's like easy peasy for whatever. It's like there's no, you'll get upset, but then you start to reinvent yourself in the next minute, because if you don't reinvent yourself, you starve.
You have a lot of value to offer, truly. Like there's a lot of
Thank you.
Golden nuggets through your story that will definitely impact people.
Thank you.
I have 3 quick questions for you as we come to an end here.
Mm-hmm.
First one is, if there was one thing that you could leave these young entrepreneurs in the world looking to make their purpose, their livelihood, what would that be?
I'm going to go back to the honesty. Don't try to copy other people. Don't try to do what other people do. It's easier, right? So the important thing is that always create something, think on something that is innovative, that is different, that even if you have to adapt something, you make it your own.
Absolutely. Phenomenal answer. The following one is, what is your definition of an authentic life?
Being yourself.
Yeah.
Not abiding to what is predetermined, and respect boundaries and limits, but always being your true self.
Absolutely.
If certain things also invade your self, invade your beliefs, you also need to, I take a stand here.
Absolutely.
I believe in this. And I respect, but I also believe in this.
Absolutely. Well said, Luigi. The last question I had is just how my audience, myself, can be supporting you in your journey.
Thank you. Well, I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have YouTube. They're all at Luigi Carneiro Music. I don't know if YouTube has at, but
I'll drop the links below, and that way they can access them. Thanks so much again, Luigi.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast today. If you liked what both myself and Luigi had to say, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. This helps to ensure that we get the highest quality and most interesting guests to help you transform your life and ultimately become your authentic self. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.